Hey everybody, and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be building a pretty high-end gaming PC using the parts in the description below. If you have any questions, as always, just ask in the comments below and I'll answer them as soon as I can. When building a PC, you're going to want to be grounded and be working on a non-conductive surface, preferably something with some give into it, so when you press down, you don't damage any of the parts. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get started. Alright, we're going to start out by installing the CPU into the motherboard. We're using an AMD Ryzen 7 9700X. This is going to be a great CPU for gaming or production. You just press down on that latch and over, and that'll release the latch, and you just pull it up, and then you pull that black cover back, and you're just going to set the CPU down in there. You're just going to match up the arrow with the arrow on the motherboard or on the black piece of plastic there. There's an arrow on that as well. And you just set it down in there. Once you have it in there, you just pull that latch back into place and just tuck it underneath so it locks. The motherboard we're working with here is a Gigabyte B650 or Aorus Elite AX. And the reason we're using that motherboard is because you can pair it with any current AMD CPU and it'll be able to handle it. So if the person wants to upgrade in the future, they can. Next, we're going to be installing an NVMe SSD, and that goes in this top slot here. First, we're going to remove the screw, and we're going to remove any film that's on the cover or the motherboard. We're going to be installing a small foam pad in the center on the motherboard, halfway between where the SSD slots in and where the lock is to support the SSD. The SSD just goes in on a 30-degree angle, and then you just press it in, and then you just press it down, and you pull the quick lever over before you get it all the way down, and then release it once it's down, and it'll lock into place. And then you can put that top cover back on and screw that screw in. Now we're going to go ahead and install the memory. Make sure you put that in the right spots. It should be located right on your motherboard. If not, it'll be in your motherboard manual. DDR5, you usually only go with 2 sticks. We're going with the 6000 megahertz kit because that's what works best with this CPU. You just open the ears up and you press the RAM down until it locks those ears into place. You'll hear the clicks. Alright, now we're going to install the CPU cooler. The reason we went with this CPU cooler is it's overkill for this CPU, so when he upgrades in the future, if he does, he'll have overhead room. He won't have to switch CPU coolers. First thing we're going to do is remove that bracket from above and below the CPU. That's 4 screws there. Next, we're going to put in the designated spacers. Make sure you use the AMD ones if you're using an AMD processor or motherboard. Then you can set the bracket on it, and you want that little stud facing up, and then you can screw down the bracket. And be careful when you're doing this not to cross thread. You can turn the screw counterclockwise first till it drops into position, then start tightening it. And you don't need to over tighten, you just need to get it to tight. And just repeat the process for the other bracket, same thing. And you want the brackets arched inside, if that makes any sense, for this particular CPU cooler. Now we're going to put thermal paste down. I like to spread it out. Just try not to smear it in all those cracks and holes on this CPU. If you do, it's not a big deal, but just be aware. Personally, I'd rather have too much thermal paste than not enough. Make sure you remove the sticker from the bottom of the CPU cooler. And now we're setting the CPU cooler down there. And we're just trying to line up those 2 screws on the CPU cooler with the 2 studs that are on those brackets we just screwed down. And once we feel like we have them lined up, we take the screwdriver and we get one of the screws started, and then we get the other screw started. And then we're going to run down each screw 3 turns back and forth until we're all the way tight. The air blows towards the cage part, so it's going to intake on this side and blow out this side. Alright. So since we want the wire on the bottom facing the top of the motherboard, we're going to put our clips in just like this. We're going to put one in right on this side, just like that. And we're going to take the other clip, we're going to put it on the other side, just like that. And now we're going to install the fans on the CPU cooler, and this is pretty easy. You guys can see this. Hopefully it clamps down. Just like that. See that. And the same thing on the other one. We want the fan, the wire on the bottom of the fan, but towards the top of the motherboard. And so we're going to put these fan clips on the second fan on exactly the same way. Same thing, we got the fan facing this way, so the air's coming in, going through, coming in, going through. Alright, put this one on. Slightly more difficult, but not really. Just gonna slide it down in there. Don't force it, be gentle. In there, get lined up. Same thing with the last one. You just pull the clamps over, and they clamp right on. Clips. Your air cooler's on. You just gotta plug in your 2 wires. And since it's out of the case, we'll show you where that is. So you got your computer, your CPU optional, and your CPU fan. Those 2 are the ones I would use. In fact, we could just plug them in just so they're not flopping around while we're putting this in. We'll probably move them later just so that they look better, but for right now we can just plug them in up here. And you see there's a little guide there, and on the fan header there's a little guide, and so you're just getting that lined up. Hopefully you guys can see this. Just like that. Oh, we're in. And like I said, we'll rewire this once it's in, just so they're not looking like that. But for right now, that's it. Now we're gonna go ahead and put this in the case. The PSU we're using is a 1000-watt PSU, and that's because it's overkill, and that way in the future, if they want to upgrade something, they can, and they don't have to replace the PSU as well. Well, I get the cables plugged in first because not only is it easier to make sure that they're secure, but it's way easier to plug them in. Now when you're putting the PSU in here, I want to make sure the fan is facing down in this case because that's where it draws the air in. There's holes in the bottom of the case, vents in the bottom of the case, and a filter for it to draw in air there. So you just want to make sure that your fan is pointed down. Another thing we can do in this case is we can start this bottom screw here while it's still outside, just because the case we're using. And if you get the fan facing down, it would be the top. Let me get this started real quick. So if you got the fan facing downwards, it would be away from you and at the top of the PSU. And the reason we can do that, there's a cutout right here. And I'll be able to rest the PSU on it while I get the rest of the screws started. So I'm pretty sure. Hopefully it doesn't go into this one. Hopefully I can rest it on there. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. So we're just gonna slide this in. Like I said. You can see how it's resting on there, and all my other screw holes have a hole lined up that they can screw into. Now it's just easier to get the screws started because I don't have to hold it so much. I got something to rest it on. I'm just going to tuck these wires back here so that when we're putting the motherboard in, they're not flopping around and getting in our way. And that should be fine. Little motherboard there. That's kind of a tight fit, but you can get down in there. Get it right behind. And it might be easier for you to take that fan out. I didn't take it out, but I got it right in first try. So, but I've done it a few times. We're gonna use the motherboard screws. If you don't know, they got like this little almost like a washer pre-installed on it. I like to get them all started and then run them down. And the reason for that is so I don't get any binding and everything lines up. Just makes it easier. Good time to make sure that battery's pressed down. Sometimes it comes loose in shipping. And now we're gonna do the wires, and then we'll do the graphics card last. We'll get all the other wires done. Now the reason we put these fans like this is because this is the exhaust fan. These are the intake. So it's gonna draw air in. These are reverse fans, by the way. That's why the blade's facing this way, even though the air goes this way. But these are gonna bring cool air in. Cool air is gonna go through here and then get exhausted right out the back. That's the theory anyways. All right, let's work on some wires. First things first, we're gonna unplug. Well, maybe we don't have to unplug them. We might be able to just push them out the back top here. Because that's all I'm gonna do with them anyways. Let's run them out and then back in. They're fans. It's the exhaust fan in the back. He doesn't even want the lights, so I'm half tempted to not even hook them up. I'm going to just because. But sounds like he didn't care about lights at all. So this is the RBG for the back. Okay, so they got all the RGB daisy chained to one, which is good. And looks like yeah, they have all the fans daisy chained as well. But it's a 4 pin. That's all right. That's what we want. So they got all. You may or may not want all your fans daisy chained like that, because you might want them. I typically want them running at different speeds. The exhaust and the intake. So I'm gonna unplug it. I'm gonna leave these two the two intake daisy chain together, but the rear exhaust I'm gonna run itself. I'll leave all the RGB daisy chain. I gotta find the RGB on here. But this rear one be real easy to plug in. I'm pretty sure there's one more plug right up here at the top that I'll just utilize. Plug it in there. Let's just stick it through here. Plug it into the motherboard right there. That last top one. Go. So you got the two CPU cooler fans and you have the exhaust fan. And then I'll run these two intake fans either right here or right here on the bottom. It'll be less noticeable if I use the bottom one. Do that right now. As long as it can reach. Right here. So we're just going to stick it through. Right here in the bottom. Hopefully you can see that. And that's the two intake fans. At least the power for them. Now we gotta plug in the RGB. Well, we don't have to, but we're going to. It's a 3-pin RGB. Just gotta locate that first. And we got one right here that we could use. We also have 2 more down here. So you guys can see that. 2 more down here we have. And them are the only ones I see. Typically I would use the bottom ones because they're better hidden. But since there's already a bunch of wires up here, right there, and since it's right here, I'm just gonna use this one up here. Hopefully you guys can see this. It's just that 3-pin right there. And we're just gonna, you just get your 3 pins. One's on one side and 2's on the other. You just line them up. Which is easier said than done. Always with these RGB. They could have came up with a lot better design. There. It is not an easy cable to put on. Some are harder than others. I'm just glad that one was easy to get at, because sometimes those are not fun to put on. Alright, next we'll plug in the case cables, since it's nice and open. Hopefully you guys will be able to see that as well. They got some weird gimmick. We'll try it. I don't know if it works or not. They call it the G plug. And so you can plug all your wires into here. So, in this case, are you kidding me? They made it all super easy. Wow. They decided to make it all super easy. They got the front panel all in one plug. Look at that. And hopefully that works. Hopefully we can just do that. Which means we can't even use this G thing. Because of the way they did it. But hopefully this works. We're gonna just sneak the front panel wire through. And it's gonna come in right below where it plugs in. So you guys can see. We'll bring it in right here. And you can look for the blank spot. Let's see where your blank spot is. Well, it's on this side. So your blank spot's up here. I'm sorry. Hopefully you guys can see this. That's where you're gonna put your blank spot, where your blank spot should be. And just plug it down. Yeah, that's way easier than all the little wires. But we didn't get to use their little G connector for whatever that's worth. And you see how I just tuck it down in there? Real nice. And now our audio one we'll do right next. It's right there, and we'll come out right here. You can see that. So we get our audio cable. It says audio right on it. And again, you got that blank spot, and you're just gonna look for the blank spot in here, which is on the bottom row. And then you just make sure you get the blank spot in the right spot and plug it around in. Just like that. Now we're gonna plug in those front USB headers. It has both a Type-C and a 3.0 USB headers. We'll plug in the USB 3.0 first. It can be hard to plug in with all those pins. You just really want to make sure it's lined up straight and have that, there's a little clip on it, and just make sure that's in the right spot, and just, you got to kind of press it hard. We'll come in here. We're just going to plug it all right. And it would be easier if these fans weren't in here. Now we'll plug in that Type-C USB cable, and the header for that is just above those SSD ports. Alright, now we got all our front panel hooked up. Next, we're going to start running some of our PSU wires. The hardest wire to run is going to be our CPU wire. So we'll run that first. Just to CPU wire. We're going to come in back right through here on the top. And this I'm gonna have to lay down because this one's gonna be hard to get in. The clip you can see is on the top. And so you wanna get turned around and plug directly in. And we're only plugging the 8-pin in. We don't need to worry about that 4-pin. Let's get it lined up. Just press it down in there, you'll hear the click. Clean that up a little bit. That'll be the hardest one to plug in just because there's not much room there. If you are putting fans in the top, make sure you plug this one in first. Next, we could plug in our 24-pin. We haven't done that yet. You get your 24-pin, and it'll be coming through this upper grommet, and hopefully we have enough length here to do that. And so once you get it through, the clip is on this side, so when this folds over, it'll clip on. You just fold it over, press it down, and you'll hear it clip. And you should be, especially in this case, you'll be able to see that the clip is indeed clipped. And then you can pull any excess cable back out, just so it looks better. Maybe this one will actually run through here because I think it'll probably look cleaner. Let's try that. Yeah, I like that better. I would honestly like those going through there too. Just comes. That's fine. Get all that plugged in already. So that doesn't look so bad. Looks pretty clean so far. All we have to do now is run the wires for the PSU here, or the GPU here, and we're all done. We'll plug the GPU in as well. It gets one of these adapters. Get everything lined up the way you're supposed to. It should just plug right in there, like so. And we're running 2 cables, as you can see. We're not using the daisy. Or the pigtails. Let's get those snapped in. Make sure they're nice and secure. Now we'll stick it in. Like the second and third slot need to come out. When you unscrew this, it folds over and bam. Get your PCIe slot covers. So, the second and the third one. And they just unscrew and then you can screw them back in if you want, which I really like. I don't like those ones you pop out and they're permanently out, because you never know what the future might hold. It's always a good time to go through and check your wires again, your connections. That will never hurt you. Alright, let's get that graphics card in there. I'll try and look at them just reduce the sag as much as I can. When plugging in this GPU cable, don't tug on it and don't pull on it hard, you know, and like twist it. You want to be gentle with that GPU cable. And you want to be sure there are no gaps in the connection. Unfortunately, I lost all the screenshots for the benchmarks. But if you have any questions, please leave them below. If you liked what you've seen, please hit the like and subscribe, and take care.